Now, despite you being very bearish on the market and looking at Bitcoin to roll over here and revisit the lows at $74,000, possibly in the next coming days, or having a massive breakout to the upside and going to $90,000, $95,000, we need to focus on the local range and see what is the highest probability. Now, with this current range that we formed throughout the last few days, we have more information. Just a few days ago, we were speculating on, this could be a large corrective move. Maybe throughout Saturday and Sunday, we are still inside part of a corrective move where we are going to see another zigzag to the downside, form a triangle, or even a flat. This is basically what is happening. Now, the probabilities decrease for a major move to the downside to really come down to $74,000, right? Or $76,000. And that we have high probability that all of this is part of a corrective move, meaning that at some point, yes, we will grab that liquidity that is sitting above $86,500. We can see it here on the liquidity map. There's hundreds of millions of short liquidations. However, to the downside, below $83,000, there is also a lot of liquidity. So it seems like we need to get both levels, right? Which level will come first? Well, for the moment, there is a higher probability that we sweep up $83,000 first and then potentially head up above $86,500. Now, the main reason why the probabilities decrease for this to be the high and the price to move down very aggressively and impulsively is because of the range that we formed and the timing. Now, if this were to be the top and this has been your main leading move to the downside to start a major downtrend, well, we can see the timing from this range throughout the last few days. If this were to be your wave 1 and this your wave 2 or your wave B, regardless, this movement is extremely long in time compared to the movement down, which would be your impulse, right? Either in a wave 1 or a wave A to get that next move to the downside, right? In a wave 3, if it is going to be very, very bearish. So that is a problem right now, okay? The timing is extremely long, meaning that you need to combine this entire range for a corrective structure. And what we possibly are looking at is a large WXY sideways corrective move where you can finish your Y wave in a triangle, in a flat, or in a zigzag to the downside. Now, we have formed a flat right over here, and then a complex zigzag move in your wave X, okay? So remember the flat and your sideways, okay, zigzaggy move here in a wave X. This is what we got right now. We do have our flat right over here, and then all of this being a zigzaggy move, a bit of a complex zigzag where you got one high, you got higher lows, and you created here just yesterday another high, right? So it can be a double zigzag, right? Or an ABC, it doesn't matter. It is part of the complex corrective move. So literally that is what we're looking at. The probabilities here for this to be a finished structure, double zigzag right over here, and this was the end. You need to start thinking of the price being very bearish, right? A movement down, corrective move. We are waiting for a next move down very aggressively, and we have a problem right now with timing. We're going to be combining here the confluence levels that we do see on the chart. We do know that there is liquidity below $83,000 and there is liquidity above $86,500, right? So it would be nice to sweep that liquidity to the downside and then head to the upside, right? That would be absolutely golden. I'm going to explain all of the confluence that there is in this zone in between $81,000 and $83,000 and what kind of patterns we could be looking for our next trading opportunity. So definitely make sure to stay tuned because these are three movements that are very likely going to happen in the next coming hours, potentially between today and tomorrow is how we're going to see this movement develop. Quick reminder, if you are interested in trading, you do have a 20% deposit bonus on weeks, guys. It's a maximum bonus of $2,000. If you deposit $10,000, you remain 3 days with that deposit in your futures account. You will be getting an airdrop of 20%. And you also get 25% fee reduction signing up with the second link down below in the description, guys. You only need an email and a password to sign up on weeks. Let's go right away through these scenarios and talk about the confluence. So we do know that there is low probability in having an aggressive move down here in a wave 3, because this, to be your wave 2, is extremely long in time. So we know that the probability is lower based on the timing. When we do combine the different movements that we do have here throughout the last week's price action, very sideways, very corrective, well, this is what we have right over here on the chart, right? Where we do have our flat structure, which we did realize just a few days ago. Yeah, we could see a flat here in this range, and now we're just gonna still continue sideways. We do have holidays tomorrow, also holiday in most of the part in the world. Okay, so we're just gonna continue this range till we get more information to then maybe form the next waves that I want to explain, as I explained here with this picture right over here, basically a sideways WXY, and there's several scenarios that could happen. One of them could be a flat right over here where the price does not take out the lows below $83,000 and we suddenly get a major move to the upside. If this does happen in the next coming hours, forming this movement to the downside, and we suddenly shoot up very quickly above $85,600, the highs from yesterday, we could be looking at this, where the price instantly moves down to the lows. We had something very similar just a few days ago. I'm not sure if anybody remembers on Monday, last Monday, where we were talking about a possible flat structure to happen here as we were claiming these highs, where we were looking for the price to come back down to sweep the local lows and get a leg to the upside to claim above $86,000. Something very similar. However, this flat would be bullish. Now, there is a short position and also a long position at the same time. It's one of the structures that could be developing in the next coming hours, right? Let's get that on the chart right away so you can see exactly what could happen. As we do come up very fast, we could be sweeping those highs of yesterday, right? Above $85,600. An important level to take into consideration where the price could reject is the 0.88 Fibonacci from the highs of last Tuesday at 86,500 to the lows. 0.88 is extremely respected. If we do get up there very fast in the coming hours before Monday starts, it's going to be very interesting for the price to get a swing failure pattern or reject from the 0.88 Fibonacci. What is very interesting for the flat targets in your B wave, most commonly you do get to the 236 to the 382 Fibonacci extension, right? If you do get Fibonacci extension from the high to the lows here, depending on where the lows are, and you reverse your extension tool here, the 1236 to the 1382 is the most common area. Now, that really depends on where the low is going to be here. You can see how the 1236 and 1382 could be very close to the 0.88 Fibonacci. Last week, we had something very similar also in that flat structure. When we do take a look at that movement from the highs to the lows, the 0.88 Fibonacci got rejected perfectly, as you can see with that wick, to form that ABC flat movement, right? The B wave did get the rejection at the 0.88. So it is very possible that we do see something very similar. You just need to be ready and have that plan, right? If we do shoot up there, we can get rejected from the 0.88 from the highs to the lows. And it's also the 1236, 1382 extension, common level for the B target. That is a short position. You can either short that 0.88 as a swing failure pattern, and your take profit zone is down below here where your A wave is. Now, of course, this could project to the downside very aggressively. How low can this go? Well, this basically, the common target is the 1.618 extension, right? That would be coming down to the $82,000 range, or maybe even slightly lower. Now let's take a look at the confluence that we do have all the way down here. As mentioned a few days ago, the 1236, okay, the 236 Fibonacci retracement is very shallow, right? This is taking Fibonacci from the lows to the highs. It's a very shallow retracement to get a strong impulsive move to the upside, right? It's very rare. It's very shallow. Most commonly, at least you would want to get to the 382 Fibonacci. So the 382 Fibonacci is looking very interesting down here, just ever so slightly below $82,000. When we do take a look at the lows of the range at $74,000 and we get the anchored VWAP from the lows, we can see anchored VWAP is exactly where the 382 Fibonacci retracement is at the moment. Okay, so we're adding confluence to the Fibonacci retracement, an anchored VWAP. When we take a look at the previous week and previous month levels, we do have the previous month close, which is sitting slightly above the 382 Fibonacci, but this could be a failure point. This could be a guideline. If you reclaim that previous month close, if you did not get into a long position at the anchored VWAP, because it did get a reaction and the 382, and it formed a kind of a swing failure pattern, right? You dipped below it and you start recovering. That is your trigger with stop loss beneath the lows, right? For that instant recovery to head above $86,500. So the confluence down here is absolutely great. 382 Fibonacci, you got your anchored VWAP, you got the possible sideways WXY formation. We do realize that with the timing, the probabilities of the price to break down successfully, right? We're talking about a major breakdown to get down to $82,000. Yeah, this is something that was kind of expected, right? 81,500, somewhere in this range there where there's a lot of support. But a major breakdown, this right over here, this extra move to the downside to $74,000 really decreases in probability. What are the scenarios? What if we do not form any of this? Well, this is what we're going to talk about, right? What other levels, what other patterns can we be forming, right? When we do take a look at the structure, considering here the momentum to the upside. Well, that is a zigzag. A zigzag is also very possible right now to be formed. If you do form a flat in your W, you have three options in your Y. That is a flat, a zigzag, or a triangle, which we're going to get into now in the next coming minutes. So yeah, we can see movement down happening throughout the last 24 hours. We could get a relatively nice bounce and then a pretty aggressive move to the downside. Remember, the levels that we are interested in here is the 382 Fibonacci and the anchored VWAP. That would be absolutely great because you're sweeping below $83,000. There is a high chance that these lows, even though it could get a small little reaction swing failure pattern, I would be expecting ever so slightly levels, okay, to the downside, such as the 382 Fibonacci, right? Round about the 81,500 range. That is the kind of sweet spot where you do have your anchored VWAP. So this is the kind of price action that could develop in the next coming hours between today and tomorrow, right? Something that we need to pay attention. This would be looking for a long position to sweep up the highs. So that is kind of perfect. You sweep the liquidity to the downside, right? You break down below 83, you get to 82 and maybe 81,500 range. You're sweeping up hundreds of millions of dollars of long liquidations, and you still have the short liquidations up there. So you would say that, yeah, there is a chance, analyzing this sideways momentum, that this is still part of a large corrective structure, and we're looking for that leg to the upside to sweep up that liquidity at some point. So a zigzag formation, it's still early stages. You can see the timing from your flat, your timing here from your X wave right there. So it does seem like that this is going to be in between today and tomorrow where we are forming all of these different patterns. Just pay attention on how the price action moves, because very likely one of these three waves is what we are going to be seeing throughout today and tomorrow. What is the other one? Well, the other one would be a triangle, right? Where you are just going to continue the range between today and tomorrow. At some point, you're going to form a higher low, then a lower high, and then another higher low. And you need 5 waves here, literally in an A, B, C, D, E. And if you do develop 2 higher lows and 2 lower highs throughout the next 24 to 48 hours, what we are looking at here is a completed WXY, right? And this would literally be this one right over here on the picture, right? If we form a triangle right now, consider that a major bullish pattern that is forming, right? A sideways WXY, because we are considering this a contracting move to the upside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sideways complex correction to then finally get that leg up to the upside, right? These are some of the patterns, some of the movements that could be forming in the next coming hours, guys. So make sure to pay attention. Now, if you want to be trading throughout the weekend, well, in the Legends trading community, I mean, throughout the last 2 days, we mentioned a major level, right? It's going to be boring. We do have holidays. Major levels to take into consideration. The first one to the upside, we do have the 7/8 Fibonacci at the $85,600. Could be a liquidity grab from those local highs and reject, right? And this is the level that was literally hit Saturday, right? We did create a swing failure pattern at $85,600 and we did drop down over $1,500. So it was a nice shorting level, right? We just consider outside of the range. If you want to get into intraday scalps based on the confluence and liquidity grabs, right? SFP levels, relatively easy. The first level to pay attention was 85,600. That is exactly the level that got rejected, right? We did get that swing failure pattern from that lower high right over here, and we got a beautiful rejection to the downside, giving you that short opportunity. Now, these setups are mainly for the next coming days, okay? The ones that I've explained, these patterns, these movements that could be developing throughout the next coming hours between today and tomorrow. So just pay attention. This is basically what we are looking for. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to absolutely destroy that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.